Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on Facebook Live, YouTube, and on Twitter. As always, I am Bryson Carver, and I got to admit to y'all, I take pride in being completely honest with every single one of y'all because you take the time out of your day to watch or listen to Carving It Up. This is the most nervous I've ever been before a show since the first episode of the show. If you want to listen to that, feel free, knock yourself out. It is shaky at best. And so hopefully I can do a better job of, managing my nerves right now because tonight, these words are really about to come out of my mouth right now. Tonight, my Golden State Warriors could become the 2022 NBA champions. Of course, I will lead the show off by backtracking a little bit to Game 5 on Monday night, where Andrew Wiggins took the game over. I'll discuss that in just a second. Again, he was magnificent, and Steph obviously did not play even close to as well as he did the 4 games prior. I'll talk about that, as well as why I want to get into like a bigger discussion with Andrew Wiggins individually, not necessarily just his role with the Warriors. But to me, he represents a really, really harsh reality about team sports, particularly the NFL and the NBA that I'll discuss later in the show, as well as Tom Brady. Tom Brady is out here talking about like this is, that competitive fire is about to burn out and all this and all that. I'll talk about that, as well as some ridiculous criticism of the Warriors front office. And I ain't saying this is a Warriors fan. I'm just saying this is a sports fan. It's ridiculous. I'll discuss that, as well as how the Cowboys continue to misuse Dak Prescott. I'll discuss that, and at the end of the show, of course, I will predict Game 6 of the 2022 NBA Finals. So yeah, this is a very exciting night for me, for Dub Nation, for the NBA, a very nerve-wracking night, understandably so. For Boston Celtics fans, I know a couple of fans, and they're like, they're confident, no question about it, but they're definitely nervous, and hey, listen, I totally understand that. But let's backtrack a little bit. 3 days ago, 72 hours ago, Game 5. Series tied 2-2. Again, we know the stat in the NBA Finals. 73% of teams that win Game 5 win the series is tied 2 games apiece in the Finals. 73% of the winner of that game goes on to win the series. Understandably so. They just got to win one more game. The other team has to win 2 games. But it was, to say the very least, not the Game 5 I was expecting. And I mean, not even close. Because you're talking about a game in which Steph Curry has his worst three-point shooting game of his career in the playoffs. It's the first playoff game in Steph Curry's career that he does not hit a 3. 0 for 9. Overall, I believe he went 7 for 22 from the field and played 37 minutes, scored 16 points, right? So Steph did not give you finals MVP, Steph. And I'll touch on Steph a little bit after I get done talking about the game and Andrew Wiggins. Draymond, best game he's played all series. Now, you might look at the stat sheet and say, well, 8 points and 7 rebounds, 6 assists, and he did not score in the second half, and he actually fouled out, I believe, for the 3rd time in this series. But what I would say is that's the stat line to me. We talk about Draymond Green has never been defined by stats. 8, 7, and 6 is the classic Draymond Green stat line. Charles Barkley joked years ago, and everybody's caught on to it, calling it Draymond dropped a triple single, instead of a triple double. Yeah, it is what it is. His impact on that. I mean, you saw early in the game, he tries to save a ball out of bounds to the Warriors, and he's not able to save it, and he runs right into that poor woman sitting courtside. Thankfully, she was okay. He made sure she was all right, and she just seemed kind of stunned by it. But you could tell Draymond out the gate brought a completely different energy that he's brought from the 4 games prior, right? Draymond's a prideful guy. He is a multi-time All-Star, a Defensive Player of the Year, and of course a 3-time champion. And getting benched in a do-or-die Game 4, he's good with it because they won. And he said on his podcast he understood it, but that sting a little bit, right? So it comes out in Game 5. He's like, man, if I'm going to make sure I give Steve Kerr no reason to bench me in the 4th quarter of a close game. And so right out the gates, Golden State brings way more intensity to Boston. They're moving the basketball. Clay's knocking down shots early. Steph got a couple of layups in transition. Draymond, again, scoring in the first quarter, in the first half in general. And, of course, Andrew Wiggins built a great rhythm that I'll sort of get to in the fourth quarter. But then, and I tweeted at halftime, Golden State was up by, was up by 10 points. Let me check. I think, Golden State was up by 12 points at halftime. And I tweeted, Boston's goose is cooked. Because what do we know about these Warriors since the dynasty began? They might be the greatest third quarter team of all time. Jalen Rose on ESPN says that the Warriors in the third quarter are the 31st team in the NBA. Like, they're that good, right? Because you're talking about the halftime adjustments of Kerr. You're talking about the Splash Brothers sort of recalibrating, getting a 15-minute breather at halftime, and Draymond bringing the leadership that he brings to the table, and Iguodala to a certain degree as well. That veteran presence, especially for the young guys on this Warriors team. And what does Boston do? They go 8 for 9 from three. They take a 5-point lead. And I'm watching that game. I'm like, oh, no, this is game one all over again. Man, you got to be kidding me. Now, the good news about that was at least this was in the third quarter, not the fourth, where you had time to come back. But what did you see by the Warriors? And this, I'm telling y'all, I said this coming into the series, this would be the difference. Golden State does not panic in these situations. Boston gets down 5 in the third, and they shut down. They shut down. I've given the stats about them in clutch time, in the fourth quarter especially. They're bad. And Golden State, even Steph, who could not buy a shot, literally, Steph makes how many, $50 million a year. He couldn't buy a three-point shot in, all game long. And even in the third quarter was really struggling to get good looks. He had one three that was blocked by my man Grant Williams from behind. It's like, dang, like Steph's just not got it tonight. But as all the Warriors players and Steve Kerr talked about after the game, the momentum changer was the Jordan Poole three at the buzzer to bank in the shot from just a step past half court at the end of the third quarter, which put the Warriors up by 1 going into the fourth. And that got the crowd in it. We know when Jordan Poole gets going, the pool party, I heard somebody say that they make sure they get the chlorine right. Like when Jordan Poole gets going at the Chase Center, it truly is a party because the whole arena is going nuts. His teammates are fired up. He's fired up, sticking his tongue out and everything like Michael Jordan's and stuff. So they rode that momentum into the fourth quarter. Clay had some big shots, played phenomenal defense. I think Clay's been great on defense this whole series. But the story of the game, Andrew Wiggins. The best game he's ever played in his life. Given the circumstances, in the NBA Finals, in a back and forth, nip and tuck, crucial Game 5 at home. You lose Game 5, you got to go to Boston in Game 6. I know Miami did it. When everybody counted Miami out, they went out in Boston, won Game 6. But you don't want to put yourself in that position. You want to go to Boston with the opportunity to win a championship, not just to keep yourself afloat for Game 7. And Andrew Wiggins for the night drops 26 points on 12 for 23 shooting and grabs 13 rebounds. By the way, he goes 0 for 6 from three-point range. So on twos, he was 12 for 17. That's the impact that Andrew Wiggins, just a tick below 75% on twos. I've always said, Andrew Wiggins' game reminds me a lot of Penny Hardaway. The turnaround jumper, backing guys down. He's stronger than you think he is. Wildly athletic, decent handle. Nice little crossover moves. On the wing, baseline. That's what he does. And I want to focus on Andrew Wiggins for just a second, because, and I've always believed this, with the exception of literally just a few athletes, not basketball players, but athletes, that Andrew Wiggins is the prime example of where you're drafted matters. It's the one, I don't like to use the word fair when it comes to sports. I don't like using that term. But one of the very few unfair things about sports is crazy talented guys going to dumpster fire franchises. I mean, let's talk about in the NBA. If you get drafted by the Sacramento Kings, or the Orlando Magic, it is virtually a death sentence. Like, you will never reach your full potential, ever. And Minnesota, too. Think about the Minnesota Timberwolves. And not to pick on Minnesota too much, but think of all the talented players that have played in that uniform just in the last 20 years. Obviously, the number one guy, Kevin Garnett, one of the 20 greatest players of all time. He leaves Minnesota, wins a championship immediately in Boston. Think about Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler's there for a year. They didn't like him. He's too hard on his teammates. He goes to Miami. He goes to the NBA Finals. And 2 years later, comes within a shot of going back to the Finals. You think about guys like Andrew Wiggins, who was a consistent. You look down at since his rookie year in 2015 when he won Rookie of the Year. From his rookie year to now, his stats have been virtually identical. 17 points a game, 20 points a game, 19 points a game. He once had a career high 22 points a game. Right? Crazy athleticism, good mid-range jumper. His three-point percentage has gone up, up, up ever since he came into the league. So he works hard. He's been working on that. The thing with Andrew Wiggins is he's not necessarily like an alpha type of guy. And that's okay. Because part of what I think helped Kawhi Leonard in some ways, and this is what I talk about, where you go matters. Kawhi Leonard, in a lot of ways, is just like Andrew Wiggins. Long, decent shooter. Kawhi's a little better shooter than Wiggins. Crazy athletic. Stronger than you give them credit for. Where'd Kawhi end up? San Antonio. Duncan, Parker, Ginobili. All these veteran guys that could help him become what we now see him as, the Claw, Kawhi Leonard, two-time NBA champion, two-time Finals MVP. If it's not for San Antonio, what is Kawhi Leonard? He's Andrew Wiggins. Doesn't talk much. Doesn't necessarily have the mentality of an alpha dog. He's an all-star caliber player. But going to San Antonio is part of what made Kawhi great. There's only a select few athletes that can go to a crappy franchise. I mean, just perpetually lottery pick, constantly messes with the careers of guys. But I talk about all the time with the New York Jets. I've always said about the New York Jets. The New York Jets, where young quarterbacks' dreams go to die. I won't even go down the list of young quarterbacks that have, failed there. That's a Jets problem. That's not a Sam Darnold problem, a Zach Wilson problem. Well, Zach Wilson to a certain degree. Chad Pennington, although he had his moments. Mark Sanchez, Geno Smith. Where you land matters. Only guys like LeBron, maybe the greatest basketball player who ever lived, could go to dumpster fire Cleveland, and within 4 years, they're in the finals. Albeit they got swept, but they got swept by San Antonio. There's not exactly any shame in that. And then LeBron goes back and wins a championship. Dan Gilbert is not a good owner. Their front office has consistently been so, if not mediocre. I mean, there's not that many guys that could just go to franchises and just save them. Michael Jordan did this to a certain degree with the Bulls, right? The Bulls in 1984 were known as the traveling cocaine circus. 15 years later, they had won 6 championships. Now, Jordan, of course, needed his help. I'm not one of those Jordan fans who just says, "Oh, Michael Jordan is like second to God or something," as Larry Bird insinuated. But just give him a little help, a little dose of Scottie Pippen and Phil Jackson, and whether it be Horace Grant or Dennis Rodman. Good defensive guards like Ron Harper, shooters like Steve Kerr and John Paxson. You can win a championship. 6 of them. That's what I think is really excited. Man, John John's out here going at my age right now. He says, "You got your apple juice ready?" And then he's got the champagne. He's got the apple juice emoji and the champagne emoji. No, I'm not drinking apple juice. Obviously, I'm not of drinking age, of course. I'm I've never been in the mindset like get drunk after winning a championship, even if I were 21. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to have apple juice, but of course, I'm not having any alcoholic beverages if we win tonight. But the point is with Wiggins, though, this is why I'm really happy for the guy, and why I'm happy for anybody who leaves a poorly run franchise to go to, in the case of Golden State, probably the best run franchise in sports right now. Like them, the Rams, like. Yeah, John says, okay, soda. That's a good idea. Soda. I'll probably have like a Pepsi or something. I don't know. Just to celebrate. If we win, though. But that's what's cool about Wiggins. As he goes, it's Kawhi-ish. Now, Wiggins is not going to be Kawhi Leonard. But he goes to a team with 3 future Hall of Fame veterans, a Hall of Fame coach, great ownership, a great GM who develops players as well as anybody in the league. And you get 26 points and 13 rebounds in a massive finals game. That's Andrew Wiggins is the perfect example. Where you get drafted matters oh so much. How many great careers, how many great careers have been derailed by a bad GM, a bad coach, an owner who doesn't know what he's doing, or frankly just doesn't care about winning? How many times does that happen? It's like LeBron, Michael. Gosh, I mean, that's about where the list ends as far as guys that could just go to dumpster fires and turn them into title teams. That's it. So, I mean, they called Andrew Wiggins when he was in college at Kansas. They called him the Maple Jordan because obviously Andrew Wiggins is from Canada. They called him the Maple Jordan. It's like, man, that's a lot of expectations put on an 18, 19-year-old kid. And when he didn't live up to that, I mean, you had one analyst, quotation marks, you had one analyst calling him a bad basketball player. Well, a lot of talented players would look bad in Minnesota. But you go to Golden State, the culture that they have, the way they develop players, the veteran leadership, the coaching, you have massive games in the NBA Finals. Now, let me just say this. Now that I praise Wiggins, I'm not going to criticize him. But now that I've praised Wiggins, can I just say, Wiggins ain't winning no Finals MVP. Can we stop? Steph Curry had the worst playoff game of his life and is still averaging 30 a game, shooting over 40 from the field and 40% from three-point range. Coming into Game 5, he was shooting nearly 50% from three-point range. So Steph's one of the Steph just needs to score 20 tonight to lock up the Finals MVP if he doesn't have it locked up already. I don't know what the Vegas odds are, but it seemed like I saw him the other day. They're in Steph's favor, and rightfully so. Without Steph, this series had been over last Friday. Let's stop at this. But briefly on Steph, who, of course, like I said, in terms of his shooting was abysmal. Again, 0 for 9 from three-point range and 7 for 22 from the field and only 16 points. Here's where Steph impacted the game, and this is what I always say about true superstars. That if one area of their game is not going, yet they can still make an impact on the game, to me, that's the true definition of a superstar. I just talked about Kawhi Leonard earlier. If Kawhi, his shot's not working, maybe his offense isn't great, he can go and get you stops defensively. He's a solid rebounder. That's one thing that's special about Steph. If his shot's not going, he's a good rebounding guard. He had how many assists did he have the other night? Was it 8 assists or something? Yeah, 8 assists for Steph Curry. And something that Steph does that only people who watch, not Warriors fans, but people who know the game of basketball know about Steph. You watch these games. This was really apparent last year when there was no Clay. But you watch these games, and look how much attention is on Steph. There was a play in Game 2 where for a split second, Steph was guarded by 4 Boston Celtics. Now, for those of you that maybe aren't that familiar with the game of basketball, there's 5 players for both teams on the court at one time. 4 guys regarding Steph in the paint. Steph's gravity, because teams are so fearful that if he gets just a half inch of space from 30, 35 feet out, he can rain it in your face. That's what makes him the greatest shooter of all time, right? Steph's gravity allows for nights like this from Andrew Wiggins. Allows for him to get a shot off. You see how many open threes Klay Thompson got? That's Steph. Ball handling, range. That's what Steph Curry brings to the table. That's what makes a superstar. Is if you are, and something else that makes a superstar too, that has shown me the true gap between Steph and Tatum. Man, when Tatum's not hitting shots, his confidence plummets. Now, I don't know if that's him being a young player, but the one thing, like I've criticized Luka, who's about the same age as Jason Tatum. I think Luka's 23, Jason Tatum's 24. The thing I've said about Luka is he gets too aggressive when his shot's not falling, right? Like he's shooting too much. He's not trusting his teammates enough. Tatum just freezes, which is a little concerning. Again, he's 24, but this is year 5 now. You know, you're in the NBA Finals. So Steph, his confidence doesn't go anywhere. He has 100% confidence every single shot he shoots is going in. Part of that's the work he puts in the offseason. Part of that's what he's done over the course of his 13-year career. But this notion that, oh, this is just another repeating bad finals game from Steph. No. Here's the difference. Steph shot bad. His shooting percentage tells you that from game 5. He shot bad. He did not play bad. And something else, too, that I thought about. The Warriors role players kind of owed Steph in game 5 after what he did in game 4. Outside of Klay in the fourth quarter, Wiggins in the fourth quarter, and a little bit of Kevon Looney, Steph got nothing in game 4. Game 5, it was literally the reverse. It was Wiggins, and it was Kevon Looney with the offensive rebounds. It was Draymond. It was Klay. It was Jordan Poole. Again, Poole's a different player at home, like most role players, most young players are. So it was kind of a weird reverse that we saw in that game, game 5. Let's see. John just said not game 5. He looked out of it. I mean, yeah, that's the thing. It was some of it his legs, maybe. Obviously, we know about basketball players when your legs go, especially for shooters. When your legs are a little tired, it's hard to get a lot of elevation in your shot. And if you notice, a lot of the Steph shots, most of them were short. He didn't shoot a ton of them long. And if they're short, that's a sign of fatigue. So maybe that's something to do with it. It's kind of like when Klay came back. Like Klay's like first month back after he came back from 2.5 years of not playing NBA basketball. Like a lot of Klay's misses were like, dang, those shots are short. It's like, man, he's really got to get his legs back underneath him. Now, thankfully, he has. So, look, the Warriors have one of the best medical staffs in basketball. Look, I mean, obviously, every NBA team has phenomenal medical staffs, but the Warriors are no different. Steph's got his legs ready. Klay's got his legs ready. Game 6, Klay, you know what it is. That has something to do with it, too. Grady in the comments. Grady Edwards, he says, just sad Klay can't play in the NBA. Just sad Klay can't play in the NBA anymore. Gonna hurt them the remainder of the series and for the foreseeable future. I don't know if Klay can't. I don't know about that. Can't play in the NBA anymore. I mean, he is averaging like 20-something over the last 4 games. Are you like being joking or something, Grady? Because I don't know about that. Because obviously Klay really struggled the first 2 games. He was really good defensively, I thought, but the first 2 games in general, he struggled. Let's see. Hold on. His comments is acting weird right now. Oh yeah. Okay. See, he's got the laughing emoji, so he's not. He's joking. Yeah. Like I said, y'all, I'm nervous, man. I'm nervous. It's not because I don't think the Warriors can win. They've won 3 games in this series. They've won 15 over the postseason. You got to win 16 to win the title. But man, it's nerve-wracking. Well, I feel like I guess this is going a little extreme, a little promo for the Carving It Up U.S. President's Edition, the final episode on Saturday. I feel like a presidential candidate who's got 240 electoral college votes and you need like one more key battleground state to win the election, and you've got a pretty comfortable lead over your opponent, but you're still kind of nervous because you're that close. You think it's gonna happen, but you're like, I don't know if I'm there. Like that's what I feel like. I'm nervous, so I can't imagine how the Warriors are feeling. Yeah. Clay said, "Yeah, I am." Haha. Just joking about the Clay imposter. Oh, you're talking about the Clay Thompson impersonator. Yeah, fake Clay as he became known. Yeah, obviously fake Clay first made his appearance onto the national scene, and I guess as a member of Dub Nation, it was opening night of 2017. It was actually at ring night for the Warriors. That had been right after they won their second championship in this dynasty run, and fake Clay showed up in full Warriors uniform, had that back when Clay had just the goatee. He had his hair like Clay, and he actually had fans fooled in the parking lot at Oracle Arena that he was actually Clay Thompson. And the other day, like probably I'd say 3, 4, 5 hours before Game 5, he somehow snuck past security. I wouldn't even say snuck. The security thought it was Clay Thompson. He got into the Chase Center. Took like 10 shots. He went like 2 for 10. That was one giveaway that wasn't actually Clay, and his jump shot was shaky. But he got kicked out of the arena and banned for life from the Chase Center. So that is the end of fake Clay. Because Grady sent me that on text the other day. It's pretty funny. Y'all go watch it on YouTube. Fake Clay, man. It was fun while it lasted. He even became a meme too. I remember anytime Clay Thompson would have a bad game, they pull up a picture of that guy. So that's who showed up tonight. All right. Sticking with the Warriors a little bit. I'm going to talk a little more Warriors, and then I'm going to move to the NFL for a couple topics and then predict Game 6. Man, some people are really envious. Like hold on. I got one more comment from Grady. Is that Grady? Yeah, Grady said he airballed a layup. Yeah, he did. Yeah, that was like the giveaway. Like, okay. Plus, Clay's like 6'7". This guy, I'm gonna guess he was at best 6'1". And even because he grew the beard too to look like Clay Thompson. The beard, like he looked more like Clay when he had just the goatee. Like growing the beard was almost like the giveaway. Like, yeah, that's not Clay. He tried to dress like him and everything. He put like the headband. No. It's again, it was fun while it lasted. But back to my original point about about this, man. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you something. We think that celebrities, in particular billionaires, have nothing in common with us. I mean, what do we have in common? They have 1 million yachts, and their house is the size of a small town, and they own basically. I mean, you talk about Elon Musk. I mean, the guy owns everything, right? Yeah, what do we have in common with billionaires? Well, we're human, and piggybacking off of that point, sometimes we tend to, and it's human, we tend to get jealous of somebody who is in our field and maybe a little more successful than us. Especially when we are trying to accomplish what they are, and they are succeeding a lot more than we are. Billionaires are exactly the same. Because they are mad at the Golden State Warriors. According to ESPN's Zach Lowe, who has a great podcast, by the way, The Lowe Post, Zach Lowe reported, quote, rivals are already grumbling about Golden State's competitive spending advantage. And it basically saying that Golden State has a $346 million payroll, including the luxury tax. I think they're like $150 million over the luxury tax. Like, for those of you who don't know what that is, there's a salary cap in the NBA. It's not like the hard cap like the NFL, but if you go over the cap, the spending limit, if you will, in the NBA, you have to pay what's called a luxury tax. Well, the Warriors are $150 million over that. So they're having to pay that much more to the NBA for exceeding, because they're paying Steph big money, Clay big money, Draymond big money, Wiggins big money. Kevon Looney's on a nice deal. He'll probably get paid even more this offseason. They may have to extend Jordan Poole. So, like, They paid guys a lot of money over this dynasty run, not to mention they paid KD a lot of money when he was there, even though he took a pay cut. Here's the thing. This is what I love about the Warriors. It's what I love about the Los Angeles Rams, too. I'm not a Rams fan, obviously, but I have so much respect for how they do business. We hear all the time from owners and GMs in particular, we're going to do everything in our power to bring a championship to the great city of X, wherever they're from. There's a really small handful of owners that will actually do that. Joe Lacob's one of them. Stan Kroenke of the Rams is another. Some of you might wonder why I have my issues with Jerry Jones. I don't dislike Jerry Jones as a person. I mean, he seems like a hoot and a half to be around.
There's a pony in here somewhere, is the old adage, with the boy scooping up the manure on Christmas Day and whistling while he was doing it. Here comes Santa Claus.
I'm sure he's a blast to be around. But what bothers me about Jerry Jones, and it's like clockwork, folks. Just go and mark on your calendars late July, whenever training camp starts for the NFL, obviously the Cowboys, in Frisco, or not in Frisco. I forgot where they have training. It's not Fresno. I forgot where they have training camp. It's close to Los Angeles. And they're gonna do a press conference. It's gonna be Jerry Jones. It's gonna be Stephen Jones. It's gonna be Mike McCarthy. And Jerry is gonna do his same old, where he gets teary-eyed and talk about, I will do anything to bring a championship back to the great city of Dallas. I know that my mortality is a thing. And he'd probably go, do some weird analogy like he did just there, the clip I just played for you, and talk about there is no check that I would not write to bring a Super Bowl to Dallas. Like clockwork. And what does Jerry Jones do every free agency period? Absolutely nothing. He lets solid players walk out the door. Cedric Wilson, Lyle Collins. He trades players that should be traded, Amari Cooper, and gets basically nothing for them, a 5th-round pick. And when the big names are on the market and want to come to Dallas, Von Miller, he doesn't go after them. So that becomes empty talk. Jerry Jones gets on my nerves almost as much as guys like Dan Snyder or James Dolan. Snyder, the owner of the Washington Commanders, James Dolan, the owner of the New York Knicks. Because they make no secret. They don't care. They don't even try to put out this fake message like, we will do everything to bring a championship to Washington or to New York. They don't care. They really genuinely don't. They tick off sponsors and fans. They don't care. Jerry, every offseason, this is the year. This is the most talented team I've been a part of since the 95 season. Last time they won a Super Bowl. Then what? This is what I love about Joe Lacob. Joe Lacob is crazy competitive. I would go to say so competitive. He comes off as, and he may not just come off as, he just may be it. If you watch any interview with Joe Lacob, and I can say this as a Warriors fan, he's kind of arrogant. He's kind of arrogant. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. Remember years ago, we talked about the Warriors are light years ahead of the NBA, and we revolutionized how basketball's played. It's like, no, you didn't. Steph did. But like that, and that really rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, especially when Cleveland ended up beating them that year in the finals. But Joe Lacob hates losing. Hates losing. He is the perfect owner, NBA owner, who sits courtside. He's not like not involved. He's not at his palatial stay in Beverly Hills, California, watching the game on TV. No, he is at the game, sitting courtside, but he's not interfering with coaches' decisions, giving them suggestions or things of that nature. People act like Golden State is the only big market team in San Francisco. Just down south in their own state is 2 big market teams, the Lakers and the Clippers. On the other side of the country, Miami, that's a pretty big market. Dallas, Mark Cuban, high-profile owner, Shark Tank. He's aggressive. We know him. We know the city of Dallas. Up there, we got up. If you go up to New York, we got 2 teams in big markets: the Knicks and the Nets. Here's the difference with the Warriors: elite ownership, elite general manager, elite scouting department, elite coach. Shocker, shocker, they're a win away from winning the NBA championship. Because as Bob Myers talked about, and they asked Bob Myers, the GM, about this, about the criticism from people around the league, he said, quote, "I think on that point, you should be allowed to spend on your own players. I mean, we drafted a lot of these guys. We developed them. It's not like we went out and signed all these guys as free agents and built some team that way. Larry Riley's the guy that drafted Steph Curry. I was here when we drafted Klay Thompson and we drafted Draymond Green. We drafted Jordan Poole. We traded for Andrew Wiggins. Nobody wanted Wiggins. I mean, nobody was saying anything then. Bingo. The Warriors' 3 best players, or I should say, because Wiggins is, to me, right now, their second best player, even over Klay. Golden State's 3 most high-profile players, all of them were drafted by the Warriors. They didn't do like when they brought Kevin Durant in, people act like, oh my God, they just put this whole team together. No. By the way, I wouldn't have a problem with that, but that's not how they did it. They developed Steph and Klay and Draymond and Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins off a trade. They're going to develop James Wiseman, Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody. That's how they do business. They developed Kevon Looney. Kevon Looney, his first 2-3 years in the league, could not stay healthy. Was his 4th year in the NBA, his 5th year, he had like nerve issues. Like they weren't sure, like his basketball career was in a little bit of jeopardy. No, phenomenal medical staff, got him right. He worked, to Kevon's credit, worked his butt off, and the Warriors developed him into being one of the best offensive rebounders in basketball at only 6'9". I say only 6'9", but most centers, of course, are usually 6'11" to 7 feet 1 inches tall. The Warriors built this literally from the ground up. Everybody talks about the Warriors as if they've been here for 15 years. Up until 2015, they hadn't won a title since 1975. Outside of Run TMC in the early 90s and We Believe in 2007, this was a dumpster fire franchise. This was a poorly run franchise. Everything changed in 2009 and 2010. 2009, they drafted Steph Curry, 7th overall out of Davidson. And in 2010, Joe Lacob and Peter Guber bought the Warriors. Changed everything. And a year after that, they hired Bob Myers. That same year, they drafted Klay. The year after, they found Draymond in the 2nd round. Draymond was not a lottery pick. 2 years later, they hired Steve Kerr. And that's when the dynasty began. From the ground up. For the record, the Rams. Yes, they have brought in a number of high-profile players. Matt Stafford, Jalen Ramsey, Andrew Whitworth before he retired, Odell Beckham. Right? These high-profile players. They just this offseason brought in Bobby Wagner and Allen Robinson. But the best player in their team, they drafted Aaron Donald. Their best receiver, arguably the best receiver in football, Cooper Kupp, they drafted. Their best running back, Cam Akers, they drafted. So this notion that these teams it's because they're in a big market and that's why there's plenty of big markets. For the record, there's some well-run teams at big markets. The Clippers, the Heat, the Mavericks. Well, actually, I don't know about the Mavericks. Mark Cuban runs a pretty shaky business over there. But you have big market cities who do a pretty good job, or big market teams that do a pretty good job. They're just not as good as the Warriors. It's as simple as that. The Warriors are just better at business than everybody else. They are willing to go to lengths that other teams are not willing to go to win. And that's what it comes down to. A few comments. Grady says, all the Golden State hate comes from KD, to be honest. I don't know about all the everyday fans, but I actually like the Warriors without KD, to be honest. Yeah, I remember you were telling me that the other day, Grady. And they, in some ways, the way they do play is it's prettier to watch. It's not that KD wasn't pretty to watch. When he was playing within the Warriors system and dropping 35, it was phenomenal to watch. But continue with Grady's comment. I don't know about the everyday NBA fans, but I actually like the Warriors without KD, to be honest. An NFL analogy, it would have been a very similar reaction if Julio Jones had been a free agent and joined the Patriots after the 28-3 blown lead. Yeah, that's true because the Warriors had come back on Kevin Durant, beat him in 2016, and he joined them the next year. That's a good analogy. Julio was a part of the Falcons team that blew that 28-3 lead. Patriots won. If Julio would have went to New England, people would have lost their minds. So that's good. That's a good point. People just don't like jumping on the bandwagon and straight up giving up what KD did by joining Golden State. Yeah, Grady said, I sometimes forget that there are 4 California NBA teams. Yep. The Warriors, obviously very well-run franchise. The Clippers, who, while they have still yet to even reach an NBA Finals in their history, in recent years, very, very well-run. Ownership, GM, coach, and they develop players well. That team in Los Angeles, who's, we try not to talk about too much on this show. And then, as my good friend Barry Grant Jr. calls them, NBA Siberia, the Sacramento Kings. John said they just got lucky. That's all. Injuries help them too. They did get lucky in the sense that Steph's early injuries allowed them to sign him at a discounted price, which opened the door for them to sign Kevin Durant. But what I would say, John, is these last 3 years have been nothing but bad luck. There's been not one. There's been 15 black cats around the Warriors franchise the last 3 years. Klay Thompson has not one serious injury, but 2. Torn ACL and a torn Achilles. Steph Curry broke his hand and had numbness in his hand for a year after the injury from October of 2019. Jordan Poole was awful his rookie year. Averaged 8 points a game on 39% shooting. I mean, he was terrible. You look at the injuries to James Wiseman. You look at last year, they didn't even get to the playoffs. So, if you want to say lucky in terms of how to start the dynasty, I'll give you that because I've always said, look, every championship team needs a little bit of good fortune. If you want to call it luck, have at it. If you want to call it good fortune, sure. But at the same time, drafting Draymond Green and developing Draymond Green was not luck. Drafting Klay Thompson was not luck. You know who wanted Klay Thompson? The greatest executive in NBA history, Jerry West, back when he used to work for the Warriors. So that's the thing. The Warriors just do business better than everybody else. That's the thing. Grady says, if Golden State wins going forward, this team might be the closest thing to the 90s Bulls going forward, watchability-wise. This is an all-time run that people got to appreciate. No question. And the dynasty as a whole, I don't think is as good as the Bulls dynasty. Number one, they haven't won as many championships. Number two, obviously the best player in that dynasty, Steph Curry, is not Michael Jordan. We know that. The second best player, Klay Thompson, is not Scottie Pippen. So, and as much as I love Steve Kerr, he's not Phil Jackson. So I get that. But in terms of a team, I've always said the greatest team of all time is the 2017 Warriors. They just smoked the Bulls in 5 games. Jordan would have gotten them 1, but they wouldn't have been able to keep up with the ball movement and what you going to do about KD and Steph and Klay moving out the ball, Draymond getting them set up, Iguodala, slashing and knocking down the occasional big shot. But yes, it is no question, Grady. It's the greatest dynasty that we've seen since the 90s Bulls. No question. Because the Lakers, while they were a great dynasty with Shaq and Kobe, it was kind of short-lived. And with the Miami Heat, I don't think they were a dynasty. They only won 2 championships. To me, you got to win 3 in a 5, 6, 7-year span to be even considered a dynasty. Two's not enough. You got to get 3, in some cases, maybe even 4. Let's see. John's got a comment here. He said, yeah, but they got 2 high draft picks in Wiggins. Well, why did they get those 2 high draft picks? Injuries. How did they get Wiggins? A sign and trade. People forget Kevin Durant didn't just join the Nets. He did join the Nets, but it was a sign and trade. The Warriors got D'Angelo Russell from the Nets in the sign and trade. They turned D'Angelo Russell and 3 bench players into Andrew Wiggins. Again, as Bob Myers pointed out, nobody wanted Andrew Wiggins back then. Nobody. So in the last 3 years, it's been a steady diet of trusting, to use the Joel Embiid quote, trusting the process. That's what it's been for the Warriors for the last few years. And John says, exactly. Grady says, will you accept LeBron with open arms if he tries to force a trade to Golden State this offseason or joins as a free agent after next offseason? Well, let me get to your last point, and then I'll go to your first. Because I don't think LeBron's going to end up with the Warriors, but let's just say he did, just for the sake of argument. If LeBron were to join the Warriors, I think it will be after next season, because LeBron has never, people say, oh, LeBron just goes from team to team to team. But the one thing people don't give LeBron enough credit on, he finishes his contracts with every team. He finished his contract with Cleveland both times, with Miami. Like, he plays it out and he becomes a free agent. Like, that's the LeBron process. Now, when I welcome with open arms, heck yeah, I'd welcome him with open arms. That's LeBron James we're talking about. I get we had the battles from 2015 to 2018, the 4 straight finals, but Draymond and LeBron are clutch clients with Clutch Sports with Rich Paul. Steph and LeBron seem to have worked out their differences in the time since, those finals battles. I mean, can you, now I will say this, I was thinking about this the other day. If LeBron joins, then Draymond probably has to go, because LeBron would basically be playing Draymond's role. Because those, to me, are the 2 best point forwards in the NBA. It's LeBron by a mile and Draymond in second. But I've always said, if LeBron and Steph were to ever team up, because this is a topic that's come up a lot over the past couple of years, if LeBron and Steph were to team up, it would be, in terms of fit, the greatest duo in NBA history. Even past, I've always thought it was Shaq and Kobe. That would pass Shaq and Kobe. No doubt. Like, that would be, because you're talking about like the best or second greatest passer of all time with the greatest shooter of all time. Like, LeBron, the way he plays would fit really well with the Warriors. Now, he would have to have the ball in his hands a lot because he's never been great off the ball. That's what made Kevin Durant such a great fit. KD doesn't have to have the ball to be successful. LeBron does. So I don't think it's a knock on him. It's just who he is as a player. So they have to change their offense a little bit. John just said he's not signing a long contract after this year. It will be a year by year. Probably will, especially with Bronny, coming into the NBA whenever he comes in 3 years, 2-3 years. And LeBron's been very vocal. Once Bronny comes in the league, he's going to join Bronny, which I've always said is really cool. Could do basically like the Griffeys did, which would be awesome. All right. Let's see what else we got. NFL talk. Spent 47 minutes on the Warriors. I'll be spending a lot more time on the Warriors tomorrow if we win. I'm telling y'all, we win the championship tonight, tomorrow might be carving it up's greatest show. I am fronting. Like, it's gonna be something. But moving to the NFL for a little bit, man, really got to bring my spirits down. What could be a really great night for me, for the show, for Dub Nation. Let's bring down the mood with the Dallas Cowboys and how they continue. We talk about well-run franchises. This is why I've always said Dallas is not well-run, because, well, simply put, they always find, Stephen A. Smith says, what can go wrong will go wrong with these guys. I don't know how one could disagree, because this is what they do. Yet again, they're misusing their most valuable player, Dak Prescott. My man, the only reason that I even half root for the Cowboys. Because Dak's my guy. Dak's not the best quarterback in the league by any stretch. I think he's absolutely in the top 10. Got the Dak bobblehead back here. Haven't done the bobblehead in a while. But according to Mike McCarthy, according to Dak, they're going to use him more this year in designed running plays, which they did a lot his first 3 years or so in the league, especially. He had a career high of 4.7 yards per carry in 2018. And because Dak actually in college at Mississippi State was probably at that time in college was a better runner than he was a thrower. It wasn't like Tim Tebow or something, but like he was a much better runner than he was a thrower of the football. And of course, since he got in the NFL, he's gotten better and better every year. This is stupidity at its finest. It really is. Because we all know Dallas, if we're being totally honest, I never, at the end of the season last year, I never bought into Dallas's, oh, there's this ultra talented football team. They weren't trash by any stretch, but they had 2 elite players, a few really good players, a couple good guys, and a bunch of guys after that. Trayvon Diggs is feast or famine as a defensive back. Tyron Smith is still good, but he's often unavailable because he's getting up there in age. Zach Martin even is getting up there in age, even though he's also a first ballot Hall of Famer. Amari Cooper was never what Cowboy fans said he was. That's why they traded him. And this draft was an abject failure. The Cowboys know their only prayer's chance of getting back to the playoffs this year is Dak Prescott. And if Dak Prescott, big knock on wood for him, goes down, it's a wrap. Even in that division, which has gotten slightly better, it's not the NFC least anymore, but it's still pretty sorry. Dak goes down, Dallas finishes third in the division. They won't finish fourth because the Giants will continue to be the mess that they've been. But Washington jumps them, and Philadelphia absolutely jumps them, given the moves they've made this offseason. And so in response to that, knowing that, the Cowboys are going to use Dak more on plays where he can actually get hurt more often. Dak's freak ankle injury happened on a designed run play. I obviously will not play the video because it is gruesome, but Dak takes the snap, fakes to his right, takes off running to the left. And we know Dak's a large quarterback. He's not not 6'5", he's 6'2", but he's a good 240 pounds. He's a big man. And his size actually worked against him. Because Dak is running to the left, here comes Logan Ryan, a defensive back, and a guy who's smaller than Dak, trying to make the tackle. And he just gets his arm wrapped around Dak Prescott, and all he can do to tackle him is to use his weight to drag Dak down. And by dragging him down, Dak gets his ankle caught up under Logan Ryan, and that's the end of Dak Prescott's season. And it was a career-threatening injury. Yeah, we should put Dak in more of those positions. Now, of course, I'm not insinuating that that's going to happen again because that's like a once every 500 plays. Like that doesn't happen much, of course. But what do we know about NFL rules when it comes to quarterbacks? They are protected. They got insurance, man, in the pocket. Because if they get drilled or blasted, like we always joke about how quarterbacks get more the benefit of the doubt in terms of the whistle than any other position. And I'm good with that because I want to see my quarterbacks in the field. Like there was one year where so many star quarterbacks got hurt and it was terrible. I want my quarterbacks to be on the field. But also we know quarterbacks are protected as they come in the pocket by the official. But once they get outside the pocket and they become a runner, all bets are off. You can't go helmet to helmet, and you can't grab them by the horse collar. Outside of those two, you can hit them as hard as you please. That's why Cam Newton had the injuries that he had. That's why I have a little bit of worry about Kyler Murray. That's why the Ravens are dialing back Lamar Jackson's runs a little bit. The Ravens, because they're a smartly run franchise, are like, hey, that's our franchise guy. And by the way, Baltimore, pay Lamar Jackson, man. Come on, give that man his money. But back to topic. They're scaling his running back a little bit. They don't want him to get hurt. Because we saw Lamar Jackson got hurt, and the Ravens went 0-7 down the stretch. Same with the Cowboys. Dak Prescott gets hurt in 2020, and they go 4-7 in their last 11 games. That's the reality of it. And then you have Mike McCarthy yesterday, or today. Was it today or yesterday? Yesterday. They're going through a mini camp right now. The NFL teams are going through mini camps. And on Wednesday, Mike McCarthy allowed his team to skip the second day of their 3-day mandatory mini camp to have a team bonding day at Top Golf. Mike McCarthy. This is the same Mike McCarthy who famously lied about watching every Cowboy game the year prior to getting to the job.
You said you analyzed every play or watched every play of the entire 2019 season. What is it that you learned from that experience that you think will benefit you most here?
Well, I need to confess. I told Jerry I watched every play of the 2019 season, but I wanted the job. So I haven't watched every play of the season, but it was just, I mean, you do what you got to do, right?
It's moments like that. It's moments like the Top Golf bonding session. It's decisions like making Dak run more that are why I say Dak is to the Cowboys what Derek Carr is to the Raiders. Both quarterbacks dragged their teams in the postseason. Now, Derek Carr had a tougher job than Dak because there were other issues with the Raiders. You had a tragedy. You had a coach controversy. You had guys getting arrested during the season. Derek Carr dealt with more in terms of off the field stuff. But in terms of the talent, the Raiders and the Cowboys are very similar. Decent offensive lines. Running game kind of comes and goes. I give the Raiders the advantage there. The defense is really hit and miss. Both defenses have an elite pass rusher. Micah Parsons for the Cowboys. Max Crosby for the Raiders. But their secondaries are really mediocre. And the coaching staffs, come on. Like Rich Bisaccia did a good job, but he was an interim coach. Mike McCarthy had Aaron Rodgers and made one Super Bowl. Some of that's Aaron. Some of that's also Mike. That's the reality of the Cowboys. They're not going anywhere without Dak Prescott. Grady, back to the other topic. He said, part of me thinks LeBron might just do it so Steph don't end up with more rings than him. Well, I'll say this, Grady. If Steph wins tonight, he ties LeBron in rings with 4. If we're saying LeBron won't join the Warriors till next year, Steph can pass him in rings. So if LeBron joins the Warriors, every ring he wins from that point on, Steph's still going to have one more than him. So I actually don't think that's as much of a factor as people think. Now, the Warriors have to finish the job this year. And let's not even think about next year because this year's not done yet. We want to live in the moment. But I'm just saying. Grady says, kind of an off topic. NBC replaced Drew Brees with Jason Garrett. I'm sure Jason Garrett is a nice dude, but talk about someone who will put you to sleep. Actually, Jason Garrett was a better broadcaster than I thought he was. He was he was doing coverage for the USFL, and he actually wasn't that bad. I thought Drew Brees was a decent broadcaster. I was kind of surprised NBC let him go. But Jason Garrett's not a bad replacement. Now, he's not like Tony Romo or anything. He's not like Rodney Harris and Tony Dungy, who are on NBC. Like, both are excellent at their jobs. But Jason Garrett, in my view, is not the word. Now, obviously, we talk about, Coach Clapper. Yeah, that's all he did was clap. And he is from everything I've heard about him, he is the nicest dude in the world. Just not a good head coach, not really that good of an offensive coordinator anymore. But he's not a terrible broadcaster, Again, look, being with the Cowboys, that's one good thing about being with the Cowboys. It will elevate your brand. There's no question. Gray says, what's your confidence in Mike McCarthy going into the season? Well, let's just put it. Let me do an analogy. I've got the same amount of confidence in Mike McCarthy doing a good job this season for the Cowboys as I have confidence that my gas isn't going to be too expensive tomorrow. So that's the confidence I have in McCarthy. Grady asks, any thoughts on the rumor that the NFL might be handing down unprecedented suspension for Deshaun? Rumor has it will include a 2-year suspension without pay. I don't know about a 2-year suspension. I haven't heard anything about that. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I've always said about the Deshaun Watson situation, I'm keeping my head out of it until like the final, unless there's like a suspension, unless there's any other notable thing that happens with this whole situation. Because based on the things that I have read in recent days, obviously we know what he's got 24 civil cases now. Based on things I've read from legal experts, this is something that could go for a very, very long time. You got to realize 24 civil cases. So they're going to have to deal with these all individually. This could take a very, very long time till we have we get any sort of finality with this. I've said on the show, the NFL cannot have this story, whether Deshaun did it or whether he didn't. And I will say it is disturbing that he did, according to the New York Times, contact 66 massage therapists. It's weird. But if I'm the NFL, I'm like, just dock him for a year. Like, you can't have this as the dark cloud over the NFL season. You can't have Deshaun comes back in week 14, like, and overshadows everything going on with the NFL season. Tom Brady, who I'm about to talk about Brady in just a second. Tom Brady trying to win, his 8th Super Bowl. The Rams trying to go back-to-back. Kansas City trying to get to the mountaintop. Can Joe Burrow get back to the Super Bowl? Russell Wilson in Denver. All kinds of stories. And we know the Cowboys will take up plenty of headlines. So if it were me, just suspend him for a year. Get this off your hands for this season, and then during the season, of course, work on the whole process. Let the legal process play itself out. But don't have this as a dark cloud over the NFL season. That's not, because look, we all know Roger Goodell. I think he gets too much praise in some instances and too much criticism in others. I don't think he's as good of the commissioner as Adam Silver, by the way. Prayers up to Adam Silver. Hopefully he recovers from COVID soon. He's not going to be at the game tonight, so if the Warriors win, he won't be presenting the trophy. Mark Tatum will be. But the thing with Goodell is the big knock on him has always been he's never handled these situations that well. In terms of domestic violence, sexual assault, like, he's never really been great in terms of handling these situations. So the NFL is being crazy diligent about seeing what they do. I'm suspending him for a year, but I'm not the commissioner of the NFL. I'm not making $50 million a year. So Grady said, see, I didn't know about him broadcasting, was thinking more of his press conferences. Yeah, I mean, Jason Garrett's press conferences were very mellow, not a ton of energy involved. We plenty know well how he was as a head coach. It wasn't always pretty. Yeah, I mean, he's not a great broadcaster, but he's fine. He's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. Staying in the NFL for just a second. And I heard somebody say the other day, and this is crazy to think about, training camp's a month away. Like, we're not that far away from football season, y'all. I mean, NBA Finals are going to be over. We're going to have the draft next week, actually a week from today. I'm trying to get some draft coverage, possibly ready to go for a week from now, so stay tuned for that. And then we'll have NBA free agency. It's going to be fun, and there's going to be plenty of trades, I'm sure, and things of that nature, but it's going to be fun. But a team that is no doubt going to be contention next year is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because, of course, Tom Brady is returning now for his, this is crazy, 23rd season. And Tom Brady was on the Dan Patrick Show. I love the Dan Patrick Show. And he was talking about, why he wanted to come back and what went in that decision and things of that nature. And after hearing this quote that I'm about to read to y'all from Tom Brady yesterday, well, let me just read the quote first. Tom Brady, quote, I had the appetite to compete, and it's going to be gone soon. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. And I've got to, just really appreciate the time that I have left, because it's not a lot. Now, one could say, of course, Brady is stating the obvious. But it's not that it's not just the words that he said. It's that he even said it. This is going to be Tom Brady's last season, in my view. Like, that's the first time I've ever said that in the show. This is going to be Tom Brady's last season. And y'all know I'm the biggest Tom Brady fan. Well, I mean, not the biggest. I do love Tom, though. He's the greatest football player of all time. I think he's the greatest athlete in the history of team sports. I think he's above Michael Jordan, above whatever GOAT you think is in baseball, whether it's Babe Ruth, whether it's Bonds. I mean, whoever you think. And with hockey, obviously, it's the great one, Wayne Gretzky. I think Brady's above them all. But this is it. Because there's a few reasons I believe that. Number one, he talked about for the last 5 years or so, his goal, of course, was to win more Super Bowls, but to play till age 45. He turns 45 in about a month and a half. So, excuse me. So you have that. You have the obvious. He did retire, albeit briefly, 6 weeks, but he did retire. And then come back, of course. Number 3, we're seeing, and this isn't a knock on Brady. I don't want people to take this out of context and say, oh, guys can't focus on their personal life. No, of course they can. I'm seeing more posts about the Brady brand and golf on social media than I am football. I'm not criticizing Brady for that because he's got every right to do that. The man's got 7 rings. He's the greatest player in league history. He's got every right to do whatever the heck he wants. Supermodel wife, beautiful family. He's got kids. But also, too, this is the second quote I've heard from Brady in the last 5 months that insinuated he's about at the end. Because right before he had the first retirement, he talked about the day after the Buccaneers lost in the playoffs to the eventual champion Rams. He said, "I'm satisfied." It's like, whoa. Tom Brady, they call it, Julian Edelman once called him Psycho Tom, when he gets real intense. Satisfied? He's never said that after winning a Super Bowl, much less losing as the defending champion at home in the divisional round. I think this is it. Because he's already signed the deal with Fox Sports. A massive contract. Deserves every penny of it. I'm curious to see what Tom Brady's going to be like as a broadcaster. Again, Tony Romo has kind of become the standard of guys coming out of retirement to be broadcasters. Like Greg Olson, I think, has done a great job with Fox since he's retired. But he's got the deal with Fox. He's got the new movie starring, I think Jane Fonda's in this new movie he's got coming out. He's got the production company. He's got TB12. He's got the Brady brand. So he's going to flourish in retirement. And he knows that. And he's seeing all these opportunities and saying, this can be, I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to get to spend more time with family, kids, wife. She's got stuff going on. My kids are getting older. They're in, middle school. One of them's going to be in high school pretty soon. As competitive as Brady is, and we know few have reached that level. He said that competitive. Let me get the quote again. I had past tense the appetite to compete, and it's going to be gone soon. He's going to be like Kobe Bryant, folks. The Mamba mentality that Kobe Bryant brought to his post-career, he brought to filmmaking, coaching. He authored multiple books. Kobe reportedly, before he passed, became a billionaire. I could see Tom Brady going down that same path. So, Tom Brady is going to excel in his post-career, and he knows it. I think this is it. I really genuinely think this is the end. Just by the things he said this offseason. He wanted to play till 45. Does he want to? I know we had. I've done the bite. I've done the bite multiple times about Tom Brady's. Post-career, and obviously, Gronk's retired and all that. But we talk about all the time, and people joke about it.
Can Tom Brady play until 50 years old? Wow.
I don't think he wants to. And this was the goal. 45, and Brady also talked about last year. He wants to get to that round number, right, of 8. Not the round, but the like 8 sounds a whole lot better than 7. Like it's an even number. It's like 8. Like that. I don't know. There's just a different ring to that. Like literally a different ring to that than 7 or even 6. He's already passed Michael. He's already passed Michael Jordan in rings. But to get 8, like that's like you can't even like fathom that. He's got by a mile. I wouldn't say by a mile, by a comfortable margin, the most rings of any NFL player ever. Charles Haley is second with 5 Super Bowl rings. Brady's now got 7, of course. But even we think about NBA, the NBA, where Michael's got 6, Kareem's got 6, Kobe and Magic have 5, Duncan has 5, LeBron has 4, Steph has 3. Like Bill Russell has 11. Like that's like nobody's ever going to reach that. 8. I'm not sure if that 7 maybe. Like so maybe a quarterback comes along with like the perfect coach and the perfect roster and they just go on like a tear or something. Like maybe they win like 3 straight Super Bowls like early in his career and he have a chance. 8. That's tough. That is going to be a hard one to reach. But I think this is it for Brady. Let's see. Grady says, does Gronk play for Tampa next season? Your thoughts? No, I don't think Gronk plays for Tampa next season. I'll say this. If Gronk comes back, I think Tampa brings him back in November. Like Tom reaches out. I think Jason Light is the GM of the Buccaneers. They reach out and they say, hey, Gronk, we want to bring you back. And Gronk will want, if Tom tells Gronk this is it, I think Gronk will want to go out with him. They'll want to sort of ride off the sunset together. That's been Tom's most reliable target in his career. And so they'll let him know ahead of time, like, hey, we're going to sign you. Just get yourself into football shape before then. You know the playbook. You know how it works. You know, the offensive coordinator. Byron Leftwich, the offensive coordinator, his system isn't going anywhere. He's the offensive coordinator again. Take care of business and come back next season. Or come back in November and be ready to go. Be healthy. Like, not subject him to the hits of September and October. And we know the weather in Tampa is always great. So that's not going to be an issue either. So if my guess is no, Grady, but if he does, I think they bring him back like in November. Like right for the playoff push. Grady also says, one thing I worry about is Brady's brand becoming very oversaturated. Guys in the news way too much, and I love him. But sheesh, he is everywhere. I say that because guys often make mistakes at the end when they start feeling themselves too much and looking at me too much. I mean, I've always, like, Brady's always been in the news. I think the bottom line for him is ever since he's left New England, and I hate saying this because I know Grady is a huge Patriots fan. I respect that, especially since they're not the dynastic Patriots anymore. I respect you sticking by your team. But ever since he's sort of been out of Belichick's grasp, he's been able to sort of be himself more. And maybe that is, maybe he is a little full of himself in some ways. I mean, he did tell Bob Kraft when he was drafted in 2000, hey, I'm the greatest decision that you've ever made. And he had the guts to say that as a 6th round pick in 2000. And, I think it's safe to say he was right. But I think that's more the real Tom. So maybe what you're seeing now, I don't even think it's an end of career thing for Tom. I think this is who Tom is. For better or for worse, this is who Tom Brady is. So I don't even think it's an end of career thing. I think it's a out of the Patriots system thing. Or I shouldn't say the Patriots, out of the Belichick system thing. Because you watch interviews with any New England Patriot and they all sound the same. Devin McCourty sounds the same as Dante Hightower, who sounds the same as James White, who sounds the same as Mac Jones, who sounds the same as Matthew Slater, who sounds the same as Josh McDaniels, who is now at the Raiders as their head coach. And Grace is, seeing it too often. I mean, yeah, it's. I'll tell you this though, Tampa's certainly got a shot. And what do we know about Tom Brady too? This is sort of like the magic number year for Tom, because ever since 2014, he's won the Super Bowl every other year. Because he won in 2014 against Seattle. 2 years after that, he beat. Of course, he had the iconic comeback against Atlanta. 2 years after that, he played horribly, but they beat the Rams. 2 years after that, he goes to Tampa and beats Kansas City. Well, 2 years now, who knows? We do know. A team has not gone back-to-back and won the Super Bowl since Tom Brady did it in, I think, 2003 and 2004. So the Rams will be trying to do that, but Tampa's definitely going to be in their way. And we know how crazy that playoff game was last year. Tom nearly pulled it off down 27-3. So we'll see. All right, the moment of truth on today's show. Game 6 of the 2022 NBA Finals. I ain't even going to waste no time. Let's go. So, my Golden State Warriors lead 3-2 over the Boston Celtics. Game 6, of course, is at the TD Garden in Boston, Massachusetts. The Celtics are 3.5-point favorites. So, in other words, barely a pick-em in favor of the home team, the Celtics. There's a lot of numbers that go into this. One thing you can feel good about if you're Boston is that up until Game 5, they had not lost back-to-back games all postseason long. So one maybe would find it hard to believe or hard to fathom that, wait a second, they haven't lost back-to-back all season long. They're not going to end their season losing 3 straight. So, and something else too for Boston. They're 3-0 in the playoffs this year in elimination games where they could be put out of the playoffs. Games 6 and 7 against the Bucks and Game 7 against Miami. And in those games, for as bad as Jason Tatum has been, I should say bad, as disappointing as Jason Tatum has been in these finals, his numbers in elimination games as opposed to every other game in the postseason is night and day in a good way if you're a Celtics fan. In elimination, again, elimination games, he averages 32 a game compared to 25 in other games. And in elimination games compared to every other game, 8 rebounds to 7. Assists stay the same at 6. Field goal percentage, 49% to 41%. 3-point percentage, 51% as opposed to 37% in other games. And his plus-minus in elimination games is plus 43. So, the bottom line is, when it's in this postseason, when it is time when you have to win a game, or else your season is over, Jason Tatum, as when you look at the numbers, has showed up. But something that bothers me, or would bother me if I were a Celtics fan, they are 6-5 at home. Just a game over 500, and they've lost 2 home games since the first round after they swept Brooklyn. They've lost 2 home games in every series since. They lost Game 1 and Game 5 at home against Milwaukee. They lost Game 3 and Game 6 at home against Miami. And in this series, they lost Game 4 at home. Game 6 is tonight at home for the Celtics. Something else that should scare you if you're a Celtics fan, because I will give you a little bit of a spoiler alert on my pick. I do believe this will be a tight game. I absolutely believe that. This is going to be a Game 7 type feel in Game 6, which I'll explain in just a second. But if you look at the Celtics numbers in clutch time. Now, what's clutch time? The last 5 minutes of a basketball game when the score is within 5 points. In the regular season, the Celtics were not a good basketball team in clutch time. They were 13-22. In the postseason, they're 3-5. 2 games under 500. So when the games get tight, Boston gets tight with it. Jason Tatum gets hesitant. Jaylen Brown turns the basketball over. Marcus Smart takes bad shots. It gets, and the other players, even Al Horford to a certain degree, he gets tight in terms of missing his shots short. Robert Williams becomes a non-factor because of his offensive liabilities in terms of spacing the floor for the Celtics. This could be a problem for Boston if this game is close. As the numbers show you, as it's shown you all season, as great as they are defensively, this is their deficiency. Part of it's because they're a young team. You know, that has something to do with it. And Golden State, of course, is very experienced. But shifting now to my Warriors side, who could become NBA champions tonight. We know about these Warriors that a lot of their greatest wins in this dynasty have come on the road. You think about Game 6 winning the championship against the Cavs in 2015. You think about Game 6, where Game 6 Clay was born. I'm about to get to Clay. Game 6 Clay was born on a road game in 2016 against Oklahoma City. You think about Game 3 at Cleveland in 2017. Game 7 at Houston in 2018. Game 6 at Houston in 2019. Game 5 at Toronto in 2019 in the finals. Game 4 this year on the road. All these road games is where the Warriors tend to sort of feed off of the road crowd's energy. Kind of play the role of the villain, the antagonist, Draymond Green especially, and they seize the moment. We know about Game 6 Clay. Y'all know every Game 6, this dude shows up. 2016 against Oklahoma City, 2018 against Houston, 2019 against Houston, 2019 against Toronto, 2022 against Memphis. This is what he does. He lives for Game 6s. With that said, I don't think we're going to get a Klay Thompson explosion tonight. Klay's going to play well. It is Game 6 after all. He has to show up for Game 6 because that's who he is. I think Klay gives you 25 points tonight. And I think he gives you great defense like he has all series. But I'm going to stop the music for a minute because I want to make a point. Why do you believe, Bryson, that Klay's going to score? I should say only 25. 25 is pretty good, especially for Klay in Game 6. And he isn't going to go off for 30, 35, 40. Because tonight, Klay's going to score 25. Wiggins is going to have, I think, another double-digit rebound game. Draymond's going to play well. Steph Curry's going to score 50 points tonight. Steph Curry is going to score 50 points tonight. We heard Draymond Green say the other day when Steph went 0 for 9 from 3. Draymond Green in the post-game press conference said after the game, Steph is going to be livid with how he shot. And so in a Game 6, where he just had the greatest finals game of his career just last week in Boston, in what will be a huge Game 6 tonight with a chance to win the championship, with a chance to finally, long overdue, finally get the monkey off his back and win finals MVP. Steph is going to, once again, like he did in Game 4, play the antagonist type role. I say he hits 10 threes, gets to the line, knocks down his free throws for once in the playoffs, gets to the mid-range, gets to the rim. Steph's going to be that dude tonight. Steph is going to, tonight, join Giannis from last year, LeBron in 2016, Michael in Game 6 in 98 against the Jazz, with Tim Duncan in Game 7 of, I think, 2005 against the Pistons. Steph Curry is going to have one of the all-time great closeout games in finals history, and he is going to score 50 points tonight. All right, back to the music. So with that said, with Game 6 Klay doing Game 6 Klay things, with Draymond finally getting back on track in this NBA Finals, with Andrew Wiggins, whose confidence is no doubt through the roof right now, tonight, the winner of Game 6 will be my Golden State Warriors by a final score of 112 to 106. This will be a game that will come down to the final minute. Steph will hit a 3 to put the Warriors up by 3. He will knock down his free throws late to put the game out of reach. It will be a celebration in the Bay Area. The Golden State Warriors will be your NBA champions this year. My Golden State Warriors, I should say, will be your NBA champions this year, and Steph will finally become the Finals MVP. He should have gotten it in 2015. He should have gotten it in 2018. He will get it in 2022 with a 50-burger to eliminate the Boston Celtics and bring his 4th ring home and a 7th championship title to the Golden State Warriors. That is how it will play out. Let's see. We've got a few comments from Grady. He says, rumor has it Jason Tatum has been shooting air balls all the way back to Boston. We need that 8-point LeBron special from Jason Tatum tonight. It'll be difficult, but he can pull that off. He's talking about the 8-point LeBron special, talking about when LeBron scored 8 points in Game 5 of 2011 against the Dallas Mavericks. And Grady says, speaking of Game 6 Klay, this is the night 8-point J. 8-point J. He said this is the night 8-point J is born. That's harsh, man. Hey, but listen, Jason Tatum has not played up to par, and I don't think tonight's the night for him. I think the role players will play well in Boston, but once it gets tight late, and they know this is it, and they know that team over there has been here a million times and has done it 3 times in the last 8 years, oh yeah, it's going to get in their heads. Steph Curry scores 50 points tonight, and the Golden State Warriors will be your 2022 NBA champions. And I'll be on another level tomorrow. And that is where we close today's show. I hope everybody enjoyed it. And be sure to catch Carving It Up Live tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time on Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter. It could be a typical Carving It Up Live show where we are anticipating a Game 7, and I will be nervous out of my mind and disappointed from a loss tonight. But what I believe it will be, heck, what I'll guarantee it will be, is a celebration show. And it will be one that I promise with every fiber in me that you will not want to miss. So, I hope you enjoyed the show. Again, catch the show tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter. Also, check out Carving It Up, the Carving It Up podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, Anchor, as well as wherever you listen to your podcast. I'm going to get out of here. I got a game to watch an hour and a half. I know y'all will be watching. I'll be nervous out of my mind. But I think by the end of the night, I will be very happy. If we win tonight, I'm not going to be doing any Instagram videos. I'll be, putting stuff on Instagram, obviously, and tweeting and stuff. But you're not going to see my face until tomorrow if we win. That's all I'm going to say. So, until tomorrow, which could be lit. Have a great evening, everybody. Please stay safe out there. God bless you all. Peace out. We're going to become champs tonight. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube. Be sure to click that big red subscribe button and go check out the other clips and full shows of Carving It Up Live. Have a blessed day.